John Garrity is an engineer of large structures, specializing in tower. He is a successful engineer in his field of work but has problems in his personal life, and because of the mistake he made, which we'll talk about later, his wife, Allison, doesn't like him, but the only common point that keeps them from drifting apart is their little diabetic son, Nathan. Nathan loves space objects and loves his parents. John Garrity is driving home after a busy day when news of a meteor shower comes on the car radio, a shower that can be seen. This seemingly normal news is the beginning of terrible happening. When he gets home, his wife is exercising and Nathan isn't present. John and Allison still couldn't go back to the past, and they believe it will take time to get back to that sweet life. Nathan returns home and he is over the moon. He shows his father the pictures he made of meteorites, and after dealing with each other, John asks about the device that Nathan has to attach to himself at all times so that he doesn't need to inject insulin, and Nathan agrees that it is better than injecting. Nathan asks John if his relationships with Allison can be fixed again. In response, John can only say that no matter what happens, he is his father and will always take care of him. In the TV news, they talk about Clarke's interstellar meteorite, which is so big that you don't need a telescope to see it, and its sequence is so much that its end isn't clear. At night, Allison doesn't allow John to sleep next to her, and John understands this situation and goes to the guest room. The next morning, when John wants to prepare the grill for the party that day, TV news reported that fragments of the large Clarke meteorite has entered the Earth's atmosphere, and this change in direction was due to its path changing and melting as it approaches the sun, but the news says that there is nothing to worry about because these pieces will never reach the Earth's surface and burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. When their neighbor sees John at home after a long time, he asks how he is doing and how he is with Allison. John somehow ignores this question and invites her his to the party that day. Next, Allison asks John to go out to buy something to get ready before the guests arrive. When John and Nathan enter in store to make their purchases, they see what looks like an Air Force maneuver. Father and son are shopping until an alarm sounds and a recorded phone call to John is taken from the president's office that he, Allison and Nathan chose to get themselves to the emergency shelter. At the same time as this call to John, this message plays on the bright television of his house. But because Allison is getting ready for the party, she doesn't notice the message. John is worried. He leaves the shop half finished and goes home with Nathan. In the message he received, he heard the emphasis that this message wasn't a maneuver, and when he sees the movements of military forces along the home way, he becomes sure that something important and serious are happening. By the time he gets home, the guests have arrived and are staring at the TV news, but unimportant, which reports the impact of a part of the meteorite in the Atlantic Ocean, and this news is exciting for them. At the same time, most of the guests are also surprised by the presence of John in the party. John asked Allison to go to a corner to tell her about the message he has received for going to the shelter. Allison believes that is probably just a maneuver, because this meteorite is supposed to hit the Earth in the Bermuda Triangle, but John is referring to the mobilization of the entire army forces, makes her understand that the matter is more serious than these words. The guests ask Allison and John to join them. On the live TV news, the countdown of the meteorite impact will be broadcast along with live images, but when the count reaches 0, there is no news of collision. Suddenly the electricity in the house makes a short circuit. John goes outside the house and sees a sudden flight of birds. In a moment, the impact wave of the meteorite, which seems to have hit near that area, comes towards him, and this wave is such that it throws him in the air and hits to the ground. This is the beginning of all the next events in Greenland. When John returns home, after making sure everyone else in the house is okay, he shares news of a meteorite impact somewhere near Florida and pictures of the area's destruction. This news causes fear among all of them. In the meantime, the message and the call are sent to John again, and at the same time it shows on the TV that he and his family were chosen to go to the emergency shelter. A QR code will be sent to him, which he must bring with him to enter the shelter. After receiving this message, there is a discussion among the present people in the crowd that why this message wasn't sent to them, and then they go out to check if a message has been sent to them or not. John, Allison, and Nathan quickly pack their bags with clothes and important items, especially Nathan's medication. Nathan is scared and his parents try to calm him down. When they leave house, the neighbors come to them one by one to prevent them from leaving or to take them with themselves in some way. Even a mother wants to take her little daughter, but John prevents, because it's clear that those whose names aren't mentioned can never enter, and this short journey should start with only these 3 people. A journey to salvation. Along the way, using the radio news and observing the streets, John and Allison realize that the chaos has started very early, and this situation will continue because they have to wait for other meteorites, which will destroy the entire human race. Meanwhile, when Nathan tries to take the blanket that is in the backpack and put it on himself, his diabetes medicine falls into the car. When they arrive at the specified location, which is a military base, there is a huge crowd, but only people with a QR code can enter. John and Allison enter the base area by showing their QR code and ID card, where a large number of gigantic military planes are picking up passengers. After entering each person, they give them a special wristband as a sign of convenience to identify the selected people. After that, they have to throw away their luggage and put less things in the special bags they give them. When Allison and John were emptying the luggage and picking up the necessary items, they noticed that Nathan's medicine isn't in the backpack, and after they asked Nathan, they realized that probably the drugs fell into the car. John leaves Allison and Nathan to go get Nathan's medicine from the car, and they agree that after Allison and Nathan board the plane, they will tell John which plane they went on to be together. As John is walking to the car, he asks an officer if all these planes are going to the same destination, and after making sure of this, he quickly goes to the car, and when he reaches it, he sees that they broke the windows of the car so that they might steal something from inside. Finally, he finds the drugs and returns. Meanwhile, Allison goes to an officer to make sure that John comes with them and explains why John went to the car, but this causes the officer to report to his superior, and they prevented Nathan from boarding the plane. According to the rules, under certain situations, those who have an underlying disease cannot board the plane. Allison tries her best and begs the superior there to let them take Nathan with them, but when she hears a negative response, she also gives up on boarding on the plane and leaves the base to go to the car. But during this time, John had returned to the base and went to the desired plane according to the appointment, and when he entered the plane, the military forces told all the people inside the plane to sit down until the doors were closed and ready to go. John sat there, because his thinking that all the planes were going to the same destination, until one of the passengers, seeing the drugs in John's hand, asked him how he got in with these drugs when those with underlying illnesses aren't allowed to enter the airplane. With this traveler's word, John realizes that Allison and Nathan didn't get on the plane. He gets up and insistently asks them to open the plane door to him get out of the plane. The officers on the plane accept his request and open the door, but as soon as John left the plane, the people who were outside the base raided inside, and this causes conflict between the army forces and the people. In the meantime, the plane's refueling hose falls on the ground and the fuel spills on the ground. John informs the people about this incident and wants them all to leave. In these shootings, the plane finally explodes. Allison and Nathan, who had reached near the car, hearing the sound of the explosion and seeing the fire, assumed that John was inside the plane, but when they reach the car, they leave a note on the car so that if he comes there, he will know that they are going to Allison's father's house. Nathan needs insulin, and because his drugs are with his father, they have to go to a pharmacy. When John was spared from the explosion, he went to the car, and when he sees Allison's note, he makes sure that both are fine and follows them to Allison's father's house, the house of someone with whom John doesn't have a good relationship. John tries his best, but he can't call to Allison because all the lines of communication are down. Nathan and Allison arrive at the pharmacy and find the medicine Nathan needs, but a group enters with guns and intends to kill and rob the pharmacy, and they shoot anyone they come across. Nathan and Allison finally begging one of them without the rest of their group knowing and leave with difficulty. When Allison sees a woman getting into a car, he asks them, the man and woman inside the car, to take them somewhere. They agree. Allison and Nathan get in the car, which they didn't get in the car. While Nathan and Allison are in their car going to Allison's father's house, they, man and woman, notice that they are wearing a wristband. John is trying to call Allison anyway to tell her that he is safe and is coming towards them, until he gives his mobile antenna in a high place on the roof of a house. And he hardly tells Allison that he is fine and comes towards them, and the call is cut off. The driver suddenly pulls the car aside, throws Allison out of the car and tears the wristband from his hand, taking Nathan with him. Maybe in this way and pretending to be their parents and putting that torn wristband on the woman's hand, they will get on the plane and escape from there. Bewildered, Allison runs after the car, but to no avail. On the other hand, John rides with the truck driver who is taking some people to Quebec, Canada. There, the person sitting next to him notices his wristband and asks him what he is doing there, and John tells him the story of what happened. And that person also says that his family was also chosen, but because he has been separated from them for a long time, he wasn't chosen. He says that these choices are based on human needs for. After the destruction of all humans, people were chosen who could do something for the society if they survive, so that everything will be formed again. Meanwhile, another person there has a verbal conflict with John to take the wristband from him. At first John tries to make him understand that his name is hacked on this wristband, and even if he gives it to him, he still can't use it. This conflict becomes more intense and turns into a physical fight. This fight becomes so intense and they try to kill each other, which causes the truck to crash and throw them out. The fight continues until John kills the person who started the fight with a hammer blow to the head. At this time, a car stops next to Allison, and Allison asks them to take her to the nearest military base around, and they also agree, as their route was in the same direction, and Allison gets in the car to look for Nathan, the man and the women. The man and the woman who kidnapped Nathan threaten him that he should tell the officers when they reach the military base that they are his parents. But when they arrive at the base and want to show their wristbands, Nathan tells the soldier at the entrance that he isn't the child of that man and woman, and after checking the wristband they stole from Allison, they realize that Nathan's words are true. They arrest the man and the woman, and when they see that Nathan isn't well, they take him to the treatment unit of the base. Finally, Allison arrives at the military base and rushes to look for Nathan with the help of an officer there, and after explaining Nathan's profile that she has diabetes, they take her to the treatment department. Allison finds Nathan, and after getting some medicine for Nathan, they go to her father's house together. After passing through that incident, John reaches a house, enters there by breaking the glass of the door, washes his hands and face, then drinks water and eats food. Leaving a note for the owner of the house, then takes their car to get to Allison's father's house faster. After passing a path, he arrives there and Allison's father asks him about Allison when he sees that John is alone. John tells him the story of how they got separated from everyone. Allison and Nathan also finally reach the city where her father lives and inform them by public telephone. Finally, after one day, they three and John's family meet each other. From the TV news, they find out that the shelter they wanted to take them to is in Greenland. John tells Allison that someone told him that planes go personally from the Canadian side to the shelters, and considering that they have less than 24 hours, they can reach the shelter on time. So, they decide to pack up again and move to Canada. John goes to Allison's father's horse stable to convince him to come with him. There, it's clear that the reason for the cold relationship between John and Allison were because John was slept with another woman. This inconvenience made Allison's father not to go with him. Allison, who enter the stable, notices their conversation and acts as if the problem is solved. She asks her father to accept and come with them, but he doesn't accept, but this time he happily sends John and his family to the shelter. John, Allison and Nathan leave, and along the way, Allison tells John that she forgives that happened and wants to be with him. They reach a place where the road is blocked due to an accident and traffic. The news, it is reported that the meteorite lava is reaching the place where they are and they should go to a place that isn't open. Lava starts to rain and burns everything it hits. John goes off the road to find shelter, until he reaches a place and takes his family there and he saves them from the lava. They continue to move again. Along the way, they get news that they have less than 6 hours to get to the shelter and more detailed information about the big collision that will destroy everything. Turns off the radio. They reach a small airport when suddenly a plane passes over them. They realize that they have arrived. They rush to the next plane and blocking the plane's takeoff path, they force the pilot to take them with her/his to Greenland. The pilot finally agrees and they board the plane. After flying through the sky of Greenland, they reach a rocky and ice land. Suddenly, a meteor impact wave hits the plane there. This causes the plane's engine to fail and they fall. The pilot tries to advance the path of the fall in such a way that they don't get hurt too much. But the plane hit a rock with the nose of the plane while landing and the pilot and co-pilot lost their lives. John sees another plane landing nearby. He informs the people inside the plane and accompanies them in that direction, and finally they reach the shelter. There are only a few seconds left until the big collision when everyone enters the shelter and its doors close. John, Allison and Nathan have their last words to each other because maybe they have less than 10 seconds. If the shelter doesn't work, they might all die. A collision occurs and everything is destroyed. Suddenly, a faint radio message is heard. Little by little, these messages are heard from different shelters until the Greenland shelter is opened. They can leave after 9 months. Everything is destroyed, but the bird that flies in front of them rekindles hope in their hearts.